All right, folks, are you stuck in founder-led sales? Is your agency kind of spinning the wheels? Well, I've got Corey here who's going to talk about how he grew one agency from 20 million to 150 million. We're going to talk about the number one, how he was the number one salesperson and how he did it for 19 consecutive quarters. The importance of not depending on inbound leads. The power of FedEx cookies, and also how to connect sales, how he connected sales and marketing, which is absolutely critical. One of his big mistakes, which was an SLA, which I think was really interesting. The R word you need to understand as an agency, how they spend more time with their clients in their marketing, and the surprising two things that they spent $5 million a year on marketing. I couldn't guess it, and as well as what you need to do before you can hire a salesperson for your agency, and how to learn the real reasons people are not hiring you. And we're talking about his book, Anyone, Not Everyone. Corey, say hi.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, this is a big episode, folks, especially if you're a digital agency owner. And of course, one of the best things you can do is get to know your customer stories and develop a bunch of customer stories that you can use throughout the sales process. Go to videocasestory.com/agency, where you can get the tackle box tool to put and collect all those stories in one place. All right, let's get started.
My name is Gino Wickman. I was introduced to Ian, and that's what brought me into this video world and got me embracing this video world. And Ian did exactly what I hoped. He got me really comfortable with putting videos out to the world and having a great strategy around putting videos out to the world, because there's so much more than just shooting a video. And so the way that he positions those videos, optimizes those videos, he's done a great job.
All right. I think this is an important topic, in marketing and sales, and something I've been talking a lot about too is how you think about sales. Because I work with so many digital agencies as clients, and they don't think about they just want more sales. They don't think about the systems. They don't think about how they do it. They're like, and then they just want to hire a salesperson. They think this magic salesperson is going to come in.
No. Correct. Yes. That's very true. I see that often.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, I've worked at sales organizations that they spend $200K to get the person, and it's still not a good fit. I don't think you've got this. But before we get into that, let's talk about a little bit about you and your background and your book.
Sure. Absolutely. So I have 17 years in the agency space and running. My first role in the agency world was in sales. I made my way up to sales leadership, and then I was most recently the chief marketing officer of a company, of an agency called Scorpion. When I arrived at Scorpion, we were doing about $20 million, primarily focused on attorneys. Over the next 6 years, we grew it to $150 million by leveraging some of the things that I talk about now, having walked away from that opportunity now about 2 years ago. Today, what I do is I focus on helping agency founders escape founder-led sales through deep specialization.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So 17 years ago, and it's about probably about the same time I entered into marketing and agency land. I actually worked for one of the competitors of you. It rhymes with rhyme law.
Okay, I figured. Yeah, there's a handful of folks today who are either running shops or working similar capacity to do that. It came from that same shop, which is a professional sales organization, by the way, much more professional than many realize.
Oh, it's what it is. It's 100% a professional sales organization. And that's why they were able to grow. And I mean, and it's so important here. Now, tell me a little bit about that path from sales up to CMO.
Sure.
Because I think that's an important thing for people to realize is how your understanding of sales allows you to be a great marketer.
So important. So I, just previous to starting my first real agency role, I was in business school. I was at USC here. I was getting my MBA, and it was at a time when all of my friends who were in the MBA program were going into commercial real estate. I had, previous to going to business school, I had a background as an entrepreneur in a startup world. My best friend and I, after college, we raised $6 million to start a company called castpro.com. We did live on location broadcasts, streaming media. This was about the time that Mark Cuban sold his streaming media business called broadcast.com to Yahoo for $5.7 billion. It was a wonderful experience. But so I had a taste for sales in my startup with my best friend. I was the business guy and he was the technology guy. And so I took care of everything that wasn't technology, including sales. That business, after a couple of years, for reasons we could talk about if you'd like, but we did not end up meeting the vision of what we were trying to do there. Ended up going into a sales role, effectively a sales role, but I became a financial advisor for Morgan Stanley.
Okay.
And that is where you go and get real high quality sales training. It was a 2-week sales program in San Francisco where I learned all about consultative selling, and you learn all about that process. And I fell in love with sales. Eventually ended up in business school, and then started in this agency after business school as what they call a business development rep. And at that time, we were selling mostly 6-figure deals, 5 and 6-figure deals to large retail brands like Lululemon, Remax, Hyundai, and so on and so forth. And I just love the sales process. I love the psychology behind it. I love the excitement, the challenge that sales is so closely tied to limiting beliefs and personal growth and all those things, which are areas I'm really passionate about. And so I started off in that sales capacity, and I was the number one salesperson on that sales team for 19 consecutive quarters. I just crushed it, and I loved it. Over that time, I really began to get interested. So I was selling PPC and SEO to these large e-commerce brands. I really became interested in the art and science of marketing, because that's what I was selling. Effectively, I was marketing services. Mm-hmm. And the buyer's journey and the psychology of all that. And so that led me down a path to really begin to understand what traditional B2B marketing around things like personas and buyer's journeys and so on and so forth. But the interim step there was I began to run a sales team at the second agency I was at. And I saw that as an opportunity for me to take the success I had in the sales role, but then bring other people up and train them and help give them guidance and structure and help them build their careers. I did that for a year, and then Scorpion came calling. It's a funny story, actually. I was at a company called Science. I was running the sales team there. It was an agency. And the recruiter reached out to me. Some recruiter reached out to me, local guy. And he said, "Hey, Corey, you got to check out this company, Scorpion. They're looking for a chief marketing officer, and they think you have a great background." I said, "Great, tell me more." And it turns out this company was based about 45 miles outside of LA. So I live in Los Angeles. And if you've spent any time in LA, you know that the traffic is an issue, right? And so
45 minutes is like 12 hours.
yeah, exactly. And so I said, gosh, they seem like a great company, but I don't think that commute is really reasonable for my situation. And so, but the recruiter was persistent, and he insisted that I go out there. And I finally said, kind of feeling guilty for not doing it, for saying no a couple of times. I finally said yes. Of course, I went out there, and the rest is history. So that was my first opportunity as an official chief marketing officer. And effectively, my role was to help accelerate growth at this digital marketing agency that was already, on paper, pretty successful. It just happened to be founded and run by an agency founder who absolutely had an insatiable sort of hunger for helping more people and growing, had a big vision for the business. And I was a person, my role, and I was obviously hired to come in and help them to accelerate the growth that they were experiencing.
That's fantastic. And, so often a CMO has, no offense to my CMO friends, but they have no sales background. Yeah. When you come into there, and especially into an agency like that, how important was the sales background and your ability to talk to the sales team?
It was an extremely important background that I had. I didn't know how important it was when I walked into this, but the situation was, it was a 6-person sales team. They had a sales floor, separate room from the rest of the agency. The founder was smart. He put the sales room off to the side. The rest of the agency was on another building, the same office park. But the CEO, founder Rustin, he did not want anything touching the mojo in this sales room. And I remember walking into that room for the first time. It was like you walk into this room and there's like a wave of electricity hitting you because there is so much energy and mojo in this room. The phones are ringing. Guys are on the phones with attorneys and closing deals, and deals were getting done, right? They had a big metallic gong on the floor that they would use to celebrate one call closes, which would happen 5, 6, 7 times a week. And so my ability to come in there and first off, build rapport with this sales team and build familiarity was really important. But then the next thing that we had to do was influence them to change their behavior. And what I mean by that is they were all subsisting on inbounds. Scorpion had this wonderful flow of inbounds coming in because every single Scorpion client had a Scorpion website with a logo at the bottom, and that would just send a ton of high quality leads into the sales floor. And every time the phone rang, they pick up the phone, they make money, right? They had this wonderful situation. They made a lot of money. They drove nice cars. They didn't have to, kill themselves, although there was a lot of, great work ethic there. The thing that was critical with my background was that in order for us to accelerate growth, we couldn't just depend on inbounds, couldn't depend on the phone ringing. We had to go do something else. So what we did was probably what any other agency founder does when they've exhausted all their inbounds and they've exhausted all their referrals. Well, what's left? It's going outbound. And so we had to go into that sales room, that sales floor, the sacred mojo room where the guys were just cranking, making a ton of deals, and say, hey guys, we have a huge vision for the agency, and we want to grow much bigger. We want to help more people. And by the way, in order to hit that, you're going to have to start doing some cold calls.
Wow.
And they're like, but we don't want to do that. And
I wish I could have been there for that one.
Yeah, I was like kind of like a record scratcher. What?
Yeah.
We did things like changed how they made money. We made their quotas and their commissions contingent on not only closing inbounds, but closing outbounds. We started tracking their sales activity. We'd go into the sales floor and say, hey, Travis, do you do your 30 cold calls today? Or, hey, Peter, what's going on with the cold calls today? Like really completely changed the dynamic of the whole thing because we were really wanting to grow. And of course, we were calling into law firms. And if you've ever cold called into law firms, that they have these front desk, receptionists, these gatekeepers who are professionals at blocking any vendors from getting access to the attorney. So it was really slow going for a while until we figured out something that actually dramatically changed our ability to do outbound, which was, you may know this, sending gifts ahead of a cold call, specifically cookies to start. I don't know if you've heard of this from Scorpion, but it is something that transformed our ability to do outbound. You did not know that?
No, I didn't know that. No, it's funny because I would get all my clients love me, so they'd forward me all the Scorpion emails. I never heard about the cookies. They're just hiding those from me.
So what it was is that we would put it in a FedEx box, gourmet, delicious cookies, and FedEx it to the attorney, which would go. It's an overnight package, so it bypasses the mailroom, goes right to the attorney's desk. The cookies, which are amazing, like. If you're standing up and eating one, you need to hold the wall just not to fall down, type of thing.
What kind of cookies were these now?
Right, yeah. So I'll tell you my favorite one now, which is the last. You got to check out Last Crumb. They've got an amazing Instagram page, wonderful photography, fantastic cookies. They're dubbed as like the world's most expensive cookies. Like they're worth it, type of thing.
Okay. Okay, maybe I can get them to sponsor this episode.
There you go.
All I want is Last Crumb. All Corey and I want our cookies. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. I just want to. I want a monthly mailing of cookies. In fact, I was literally just emailing with Derek, the founder, of Last Crumb. So the cookies would end up in the break room, and everyone would be standing around like, "Who sent the amazing cookies?" And the word Scorpion would be bouncing off all the walls because people were saying, well, it's company Scorpion. And well, who's Scorpion? And by the time we'd call to follow up on the cookies, it went from the typical resistance of like, sorry, they're not available to, wait, you're the ones who sent those cookies? Those were so good.
So smart.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me put you through.
it's smart because it's funny like yeah, and we had John Rowland on. He talks about giftology. And he says not to
Yeah,
send.
I love John. John's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I mean, he says not to send food, but the food thing is really smart when you have to get through gatekeepers because the food gets passed around. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and you got to be friends with the gatekeepers. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's awesome. And what I love, I mean, you because you didn't come in with a traditional marketing approach. Like, hey, we need to rebrand. We need to get all new, brochures. It's
Right,
like,
right. We
it's
need to do
like,
buyer personas.
yeah, yeah, no, it's like, hey, let's get out there and get in front of them and get them talking about us.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah, let's build some reciprocity, let's build some urgency, some scarcity, all the sort of the Cialdini's, weapons of influence,
yeah,
were in play there.
nice. And so, um, as you grew, how did you
Yeah.
maintain that relationship with sales being in charge of marketing?
So, I'll give you a couple of examples. We were very closely tied to sales because
Mhm.
they had enough, I would say, political capital in the company to be able to just reject what I wanted to do with my team, right? So ended up building. I was a team of one when I got hired. I had a team of 30 by the time I left the company, and so we had to really make sure that what we were doing was integrated and was in alignment with sales. So we would do anything from, like, of course, we would track all the performance of inbounds and outbounds, trying to understand what's working, what's not. But if we were going to send a round of gifts, which by the way, we did every quarter to prospects, we would do something that I think was really helpful. Well, I'll tell you what we did first, which was we made a stupid mistake, which is our marketing team said, "Hey, we're going to send this really cool uh, edible arrangements to these attorneys, and it's going to be great. It's going to be another gift, it's like our fourth or fifth gift we've sent them. We sent them a book. We sent them cookies. We're going to send them edible arrangements. We send them out, and the sales team are like, "We're not following up on that garbage. Like, I don't want to be associated with this fruit thing you guys did, right?" So that was the mistake.
I was thinking
So what
about
we
I was thinking the exact same thing when you're like edible arrangements. I'm like,
I know
"Ugh."
it was crazy. It was a bad idea. So, but what we did instead going forward is in any if you have a sales floor or sort of multiple salespeople, there's always a hierarchy. There's always sort of a pecking order. And so what we would do is we would work closely with the leader, the sort of the social leader of the group, and bring them into the campaigns and say, what kind of gifts should we be sending, right? And
Mhm.
why, and why. And if we were going to rebuild the sales deck, we would bring them in early in the process and interview them and get their buy-in, because what would happen is once we would send out those gifts or roll out the new sales deck, we needed someone on the sales floor to be able to champion the change, right?
Mhm.
Change sucks, right? No one wants to
Yeah.
change it. But if we had an internal champion on the sales floor, everyone, people the person who everyone respected and looked up to, if they're doing it, well, then it's okay for the rest of the group to do it. So we would work with them in those respects. And my counterpart, Jamie Adams, who came from Reach Local, um, who ran the sales team, we would meet weekly and talk, at great depths about how we're going to go and either launch a new vertical or get greater penetration into an existing vertical. So it was a lot of closeness there.
That's great.
Yeah, I
That
made the mistake of creating an SLA. You heard of these things? Service
yes.
level agreement. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is for those who are not familiar, it's a formal agreement between sales and marketing saying, I'm going to send you the lead. That's my responsibility. And then sales is saying, I'm going to follow up on the lead within, 30 seconds or whatever it is. And that didn't go over very well because it formalized a relationship that should have been operating on trust.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that. What happened?
Yeah. So it was something that I introduced. I don't know where I got influence on that idea, but it was HubSpot or something. But um, I what was I trying to do? I think I was trying to influence the sales team to do what's in their and our best interest. In
Yeah.
other words, follow up on leads, like a basic thing that, we're all incentivized for that outcome. And instead of the SLA working, again, it's a formal agreement, like marketing does this and agrees to these criteria. Sales, on the other hand, does this. We work hand in hand, and this is sort of our formal agreement. I don't think it worked because no one on the sales team read it, and no one on the sales team really adhered to it. What they adhered to was what their boss told them to do. So I realized that I just needed to have a conversation with their boss to make sure that the boss and I are in alignment with regard to what do you do when a lead comes in? How soon do you follow up? How many times do you follow up? And so on and so forth. So instead of leveraging some kind of agreement, I would just leverage my relationship with the head of sales.
Gotcha. And so, okay, fast forward. What do you think was, because I'm assuming that cookies wasn't the key to, what did you say you grew from 20 to 200, or what was the numbers?
Yeah, ultimately we got to 200, but the number I use is 150 because
Okay.
I can validate that number, but I've heard we got as big as 200.
Okay.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, for relative purposes here,
Yeah.
most, that's a big number and it's a big
Sure.
jump.
For anyone.
Where were the sticking points, and how did you get through them, or was it just all
Yeah.
cookie? Just more
Yeah,
cookies?
no, it's so good. So I'll tell you about the cookies first, and cookies is more broadly or more globally something I now call gift-based outbound, which is that you send a gift ahead of a cold call to warm up the lead. And it doesn't have to be cookies, but cookies work. And so this gift-based outbound approach took our business, which was very heavily dependent on inbounds, almost 100% on inbounds and referrals, to 50% of the revenue was driven by outbound. So we doubled the business just by introducing this gift-based outbound play, as well as the sales process and a lot of other things we did. And so that was very influential for us to grow, is figuring out which we did do, is how do we get outbound to work for us? Outbound, as I mentioned, represented half of our revenue from nothing. That's number one. Number two is we took what worked in the legal vertical, the work we were doing for law firms, and we went to a new vertical market called home services. It was effectively plumbers and HVAC businesses. And I'll tell you what we didn't do, and then what we did do. So what we didn't do is we didn't just have our attorney salespeople also sell to home services. We didn't have our attorney account manager also just sell into or service plumbers. What we did is we actually created a separate business unit with individual resources. This happened over time, but effectively this is where we ended up, which was you had a salesperson who only sold to plumbers. Ideally, they had a plumbing background. In some cases, they did. That got, when the sale happened, then they would go to an account manager who also only worked with plumbers, and so on and so forth. So the value of the client relationship was enhanced when you worked with Scorpion because we were specialists. We understood their business in many respects through the specialization better than they did. We understood how to grow it and all the challenges that they should expect to face when they are a growing plumbing company. And so we took this vertical, what I call deep specialization approach, where we had effectively at the end of the day, $150 million business based on 4 verticals that were separate business units. It was attorneys, home services, franchise, and then medical or healthcare. And those were all separate business units, separate presidents who sat at the top of each of those business units, separate P&L. There were some shared resources, including my team, HR, but most of the client-related execution was separated out by vertical. And the whole purpose of all of this is we killed it on client retention. The agency business is a retention business. Mm-hmm. If it's nothing else, it's a retention business. And so what that meant was we were able to keep clients for 36 months, sometimes longer. And as a result of that, some of our closest competitors did not have as long of a lifetime value. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it was 12 months. So as a result of this wonderful lifetime value, this annuity of cash every time a month would pass, we get more revenue from a client. We knew that we could spend more on the front end than our competitors because we knew we'd make it up on the back end.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that because I think, and even if you didn't hire someone that was in plumbing, if they're a good salesperson, they would quickly get to know the words, the parlance, how
Yes.
to talk to them, and not be
Yes.
switching back and forth between attorneys and plumbers. Now,
Correct.
I mean, I've said it on my attorney clients, you're gonna not like this, but attorneys are essentially highly paid plumbers. But
I, I wasn't gonna say it, but yes, I see what you're saying.
no, but I mean, they're doing different things. They're fixing stuff, right? But
Right.
if your house is flooding, the plumber's more valuable than the attorney. Um,
Absolutely.
but I think that's a big piece. That's an important discovery that you all made there, and also retention, because so few people. I don't know. They stop. And talk to me about that because I feel like people that get the lead, they get the sale, and then they stop marketing. I mean, because retention
Yes.
is not just giving good service, is it?
No, well, of course not, especially for in the world of a digital agency. Most of agencies they're hired to produce a specific business outcome in the form. And so you need two things to be a successful agency. You need to have an amazing customer experience where they feel taken care of, where they feel like they're your only client. Like all these things really matter. But then also you need the results, like the
Mhm.
relationship stuff, the them feeling good about being taken care of only works as long as you're providing results. They can go a month or two without results, but if you're not delivering those results, they will leave you. And
Yep.
so you what we were able to build at Scorpion, and this was in place before I came, which was a true obsession about the customer experience. We really cared about that it was a seamless experience, that they felt taken care of. So built into our culture, uh, you as a client begin to build a direct relationship with your account manager. We talk about what are your dreams, what are your vision for your business, because we're in a position to help you achieve those. So we would tie everything to the big vision. We would get to know them, their families. If they had a child, they'd get a onesie from Scorpion. We would
Mhm.
celebrate their wins and help them mourn their losses. And so that was built into the client experience. And as a result of that, people really felt that for the dollars that they were paying us, they were getting so much more in value. So much
Mm.
so that if they would ever leave us, they would often come back because they realize like the grass is not greener anywhere else. They're not going to get that level of support anywhere else.
And when you look at that and you look back now on past the retention
Hmm.
and finally as you're leaving, what was the marketing piece that was working the best for you?
So the gift based outbound became a regular cadence every single quarter. For example, I had a $6 million marketing budget, which is crazy,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
A half of that went to gifts. A third of
Wow.
yeah, so $3 million a year to gifts as a first touch in the sales process, and then 2 million dollars went to. I guess what was the thing that $2 million went to? $3 million went to gifts.
Gifts.
But then what did $2 million go to? One category of marketing. Any guesses?
I have no
I
idea.
know it's kind of it'd be hard to guess. Events, going to events. So
Yes.
so we were working with our vertical markets. By and large, were local service businesses, and so they would all have industry events, associations, conferences. And what we found is that the people we were selling to really liked having beers with us and kicking back and meeting us
Hmm.
and building a direct in-person relationship with us. They say belly to belly type of thing. So what we did is
Yep.
we figured that we would extend the Scorpion experience into those events. We would have double decker booths. We do Tesla giveaways. We take our clients and prospects out to the Britney Spears concert and sit in front row. And we really went above and beyond to kind of create what we called something that's a USI, which stands for uniquely striking impression. We wanted them to feel like a VIP that were really important. And that's how we would show up at these events.
That's fantastic. And so Now let's talk about because you left and now you wrote this book.
Yeah.
Anyone but anyone, not everyone. Tell me
Yes.
at a high level what it's about.
Yeah. So it is a derivative. The title came to me, it was interesting. I had a much different title, and this title kind of emerged based on the writing process. But it's based on this concept from David Allen, who wrote Get Things Done. It's a organizational coach, and what he said is that you could do anything, but you can't do everything, right? And
Hmm.
it's the same core concept that where agency founders get stuck is they say yes to too many different types of business, which introduces a tremendous amount of variability in everything from sales, marketing to client services. That variability turns into churn and chaos and all those things. So
Yep.
I wrote this book based on largely on my experience at Scorpion and the success that we had, which resulted in all of the growth that we experienced. I've coined the term deep specialization. And what that means is having a really sort of narrow focus on a vertical market, which means saying yes to one thing and saying no to a lot of others. Having a strategy, which is a massive action plan designed to give you a moat around your agency and a competitive advantage. And then number three, which is something that most people don't get, which is empathy. You have to
Mm,
actually care about the target vertical market you're serving.
100%.
Or else you're
100%.
you're not going to stick around for very long. And so it's a book where I walk you through a process of going from being a generalist to a vertical market specialist, including a marketing plan to start to build your agency in that vertical market.
And now, as you go through this, and we're talking about founder-led sales and getting out of founder-led sales,
Mhm.
in your, I get this question from people a lot. It's like, I want to hire a salesperson. I want, and they think that they should just go hire a salesperson.
Yeah.
When do you feel is the time, or what should be in place before you hire a salesperson?
Great question. You need a repeatable sales process that is founder independent. That works.
I
Most
laugh
founders,
because
what's that?
I laugh because I talk to this all the time when I'm coaching agencies. I'm like, so do you have a sales process? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, can I see it? I'm like, well, it's in
Right,
my head.
right, right, right. And so and sales typically is the last thing to be stuck with the founder. In many cases, the founder has a great network and they work that network, and that drives sales. Of course, then the founder is like, I don't want to be stuck doing this anymore. I want to focus on other areas of the business. But it's a very common path. And so the first thing to do, in my opinion, is you focus on a vertical market. You define a really clearly marked out um, industry that has a great, what I call TAM, total addressable market, one that you have maybe some evidence that you already know how to work with them and provide great results. They pay you good money. They stay with you. You like working with them. There's a whole process to get clear on that. That's number one. Then you need to find a way, and you need to build your muscle to be able to speak and market to them with empathy, understanding
Hmm.
their specific situation, not a generic version of their situation. And then once you have focus on a vertical and you have really great empathic messaging and positioning, then you could deploy up to 20. There's done the research. There's 27 different vertical specific marketing, sales and marketing tactics that you could do to fill your business with those vertical clients. But that's a place where most people start, is the marketing. It's not a marketing problem. It is actually a positioning problem, right? So once you have the positioning and that focus, then you can go out and deploy some of these strategies for your agency.
And you skipped over something. I mean, you didn't skip over it. You talked about it and
Yeah.
glanced over it, but I think it's so important because I talk to people. I mean, I think this is, in my opinion, the most important thing in sales and marketing
Mm.
is the situation, right?
Yeah.
Understanding the situation.
Context. Yeah.
The science. There's a great book, "Person in the Situation," shows the science. We think it's, we're speaking to a person. Oh, I'm marketing to attorneys. I'm like, no, you have to understand their situation. Can you go deep into what you mean by, like, how you define that and how you
Sure.
take advantage of it?
So it's so I'm so happy you're drilling in on this, Ian. So there's a process, but then there's also one thing you really need to get as a result of this process. I'll tell you the process. Number one, and this is from traditional product marketing. You do buyer journey interviews. You understand why the businesses who are your current clients, how and why they purchase from you, specifically in that vertical market. So you understand
Yep.
the motivations, the pains, what are the attributes that they care about. And then you also look at the competitive landscape. You look and see what are the alternatives that I'm being compared to try and understand how they're positioning. And then what you do is you create something that's called a POV, a point of view, right? I'm sure you're familiar with the point of view. Most agencies come out and they say, well, our point of view is that the market is broken and that, we have this, this different way of doing things and whatnot. And that's not what the point of view I'm talking about. I'm talking about having a point of view on your client's industry. And I'll give you an example to help really illustrate what this is. There's an agency founder. His name is Luke Egebraden. He has a founder, or excuse me, he has an agency called Phaser Marketing. And what he's done is brilliant in that. So his focus is in the construction industry. And I recently heard Mike Rowe talking about the fact that the construction industry has a 5-to-2 problem. For every 5 people who are leaving the construction industry because they're aging out, only 2 are coming back in, right? And so there's a massive gap in what, the demand for work versus the amount of supply of workers. People are just not going into the trades. So Luke Egebraden, the founder of this agency focused on construction, guess what he does? He launches a nonprofit group to raise money to give scholarships to kids who are graduating from high school and going into the trades. He also goes around, speaks on stages about the benefits of working in the trades and the blue collars, try and combat the for whatever reason, the negative perception of working in the trades as not being a great career path. It is absolutely a wonderful career path. So
awesome career path.
Right. Exactly. I'm wondering, what my life would have been like if I had taken that path. Right. So he is not just saying, hey, we're for the construction industry. He's able, through demonstrating the behavior of, raising this money, doing these fundraiser dinners and giving these checks to these kids to say effectively to the market, we're not just a digital marketing agency. We're a part of your community. Right. And our point of view is that the world has got it wrong when it comes to careers in the trades. It's a fantastic career path. And by the way, we're doing something about it. Right. That's the point of view that really drives home the positioning. It's not lip service. It's actually behavior that supports that. And as a result of that, he's able to build a tremendous amount of trust and believability right off the bat, and it separates him from his competitors.
Yeah. And, it's really interesting too, that he did that. And because you listen, right? You listen to the real problems. And like you said, the situations, and you listen to the real problems of these people, and you go and you start to solve them, at least help them out. I think it's so crucial to understand this in your marketing. And so much of it comes from listening to customer stories, which is what we do at Video Case Story. And I try to explain to people, listen to your customer. Don't just get a testimonial. You got to really listen to them. And so how much, when we talk about this, how much time do you suggest someone dedicating to investigating, listening to their customer, doing the research? Because I'm assuming it's not just a one and done thing either.
No. And it's one of those efforts that ideally, best case scenario, that you're doing quarterly, that you as the founder are doing client interviews. And by the way, there's not just buyer journey interviews. There is win-loss interviews. What happens when people don't choose you in the sales process? That's a great opportunity for you to learn about why people aren't choosing you. There's what they call in SaaS, like user interviews. Understand people who are actually using your service. What are they using? What are they not using? So on and so forth. So being super focused on the customer, customer obsessed, starts, I believe, at the founder level, and it trickles down through the rest of the company. From a practical perspective, most agency founders aren't going to do this on a quarterly basis until they have maybe reached a certain level of infrastructure or resources in their company where they can dedicate more time. In the meantime, I think once a year is reasonable.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the more you listen to your customers, they have all your hooks, all your positioning statements. They have the answers,
Yeah,
and people are like, well, I don't want to bother them. I'm like, if you ask in the right way and talk to them, you're not bothering them. The right ones are excited to talk about themselves.
absolutely. They talk about themselves, and hopefully they want to see you be successful, right? So
Yeah,
they want to help you.
yeah, 100%,
Mm.
100%. So, talk to me a little bit more about like just this overall, the steps
Mhm.
in doing this again, because you said, you talked a little bit about it, but what are the steps that you outline?
Sure. So there's 3 steps.
Anyone?
There's Yeah,
Okay.
so there's 3 big steps. Number 1 is getting what I call deep focus on a vertical market. That's number 1. Number 2 is
Hmm.
building empathic messaging, which is being
Yep.
able to communicate at that deep level to them and with compassion and authenticity. And then the third one is developing a bankable marketing plan, which is specific to that vertical market. So agency founders will come to me and they say, well, you know, does that mean I can't say yes to people who are not in this vertical market? Like, of course you can. You have to keep the lights on. But if you're going to spend any effort going to conferences or spending media dollars or doing anything as it relates to generating new business, I want you to focus it in this one specific area, right? This one
Hmm.
specific vertical market. And what happens when you become focused on a vertical market from maybe not having that focus is that everything becomes much simpler, much clearer. You know exactly which lists to buy, which conferences to go to, which keywords to rank for, which podcast to guest on, which podcast to launch. Which PPC campaigns. Like all of that becomes really clear. And so this is a forcing mechanism, focus forcing mechanism for you to only build your reputation and build your credibility and visibility in a single vertical market.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's so true. And it just makes it easier and easier and easier. And plus, I think I talk to so many agencies, and I think because they're digital marketers, they shift towards digital. And like you said, there's just you guys, cookies and events, $5 million a year. Can't argue with that
I
success,
know,
right?
right?
And,
Yeah,
and I mean, I'm assuming there was a million left to digital,
correct.
but I believed in digital, but people need to think about these other things, and especially if you're in like you guys, home services, contractors, roofers, they are not as responsive to digital marketing. You got to
No, they're
do
on their
other
flip
stuff.
phones. They're not necessarily hanging out on TikTok, right? they
No,
Some do, but most don't.
no, most aren't on TikTok. Most aren't, and yeah, most aren't going to respond to your direct response
No.
ads. Yeah, and I think this is an important thing to do, and it's such a simple thing, but I mean, that's why this book is so important for every
Mhm.
agency to read in
Yeah,
some way, shape, or form,
thank you.
because what you outlined is, I wish I'd have known that, uh, 15 years ago. It
Mm.
took me a long time of mistakes and consultants and everything to get to that.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And so we'll put a link to the book in the show notes. It's anyone not everyone.com, and there's also the audiobook on there is available
Correct. So
for
your
free.
listeners are more than welcome to go right now to anyone.everyone.com and you'll get access to the full audio book. It's the same one that you get on Amazon and Audible, but I'm giving it to your listeners for free. And I'm the narrator, so you get to listen to my voice. Hopefully, you like my voice a little bit because we're hearing a lot from me.
I'm glad I got to talk to you before listening to it, because I always listen to things on 2 times speed, and then when
Okay,
I
good.
meet the
Yes,
people,
Mickey Mouse
and
voice.
I meet the people, yeah, I'm like, why are you talking so slow?
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
Yes.
I'm like, come on. I know you talk faster than this.
Mm.
And there's an online workbook there. That's fantastic. A lot of
Yes.
tools. And then I know we're connected on LinkedIn. I see you do a lot of LinkedIn posts. Is that the
Yeah.
best place to follow you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. Definitely follow me there. When you sign up so when you go to get my audiobook, I do ask for your email address and that'll put you on my newsletter as well. So that's a great way for you to stay in touch for my
Awesome.
my newsletter.
Very cool. Very cool. We'll
Yeah.
put a link to all that in the show notes.
Thank you, Ian.
And if someone want to work with you directly, how do you work with people directly?
Sure. So I offer two different paths to work with me, either in a group format or in a one-on-one format. And effectively, I'm helping agencies who are generalists, who are struggling with founder-led sales, and I take them We go together. I take your hand. We walk through a process. At the other end, you're a vertical market specialist with a roadmap to escape that founder-led sales.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm assuming that once they get the book, they'll be able to contact you or
Yeah.
connect with you through LinkedIn.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Corey, Quinn, thank you so much for being on the Garlic
Yeah.
Marketing Show.
Yeah, I love it. I've been looking forward to this. This was a lot of fun. Thanks, Ian.
It was a lot of fun. And thanks for giving us so much time. And thank you all for taking Corey and I on your journey. This has been Iron Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.